And we are live for maybe the one of the last times this season. We need to get AJ Herschel back on. He can't be with us tonight, but it is I, Judah Buddha, and it's Jared, the absolute stud. Let's hit the intro.
Oh.
Been a little while since I've been on, for a whole episode, and I don't know. We're back here, and I really think this has got to be one of the last episodes we do as far as fantasy football goes, right?
Well,
it's the last week. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the last week of the fantasy football season. So we've got tonight. We've got if we happen to do one, maybe Saturday's
we should do
New Year's Day. Yeah, and then who knows? Depending, there is. Normally I would say our friend Anthony, but I've got to say for this week, my nemesis Anthony, because Anthony is all that is left standing between me and what I think is fair to say the single greatest comeback in the history of sports.
It was pretty good. I thought we were all down and out as far as the Roto Hackers representation, but you took the mantle, grabbed it by the horns, and took it to the top. And for that, we salute you. And the gauntlet has been thrown for Anthony.
Yeah.
Can he withstand the ultimate stud?
The absolute studs. The absolute studs. The absolute studs. Yeah.
Oh, the absolute studs.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like I get here, I got here last year and I'm back in the championship this year. And every time, I say I've only been twice, but both times I've been like, okay, all right, let's go. Here we go. I'm going to shut up Jonathan Buster now that he's here in the title. Wait, where is he? He's not here. What? He's not in the title game. It's confusing because I hear all season about, like every time he wins, every time he beats, especially if he happens to beat one of us, just like it. And then I get to the championship and he's not there. And it's just like, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony whooped him. Yeah, it was interesting. Took down the Roto Hackers. Now this is Cademan. Hello, folks. Hello, Cademan. How have you been doing in your other leagues? I didn't check. So my last surviving league that I'm in the final game, is in the Allied Rivals league. So my allied rival, I don't know who I'm playing. I'm not as familiar with that one. It's funny. It's like the ones I cared about the most, and I like allies. This is the first year I've ever been in this league. But
yeah,
the leagues, I was like, all my, so that one you're in with me, those are like all my, some of them are my college buddies and then my church buddies in another league. And then our Roto Hackers League, I didn't do very well. I did okay in the other two, but in Roto Hackers League, I was like blowing wind.
Yeah.
Ryan, what's up, Ryan? I saw he says, what's up, guys? He is 2-0 this week. So going to 2 finals. Brilliant. And he says main league is one of them. Cha-ching.
Nice.
How about you, man? How'd you fare? Did you survive the onslaught this week?
I did. Like, I don't know how. Apparently I thrive in chaos, because this is like turning into one of my better season. So,
Nice.
so I ended up with 21 teams. And let's see how many. So I think I got 11 of them, 11 or 12 into the playoffs. And
Nice.
let's see, what was it? It was, okay. So it's 12 into the playoffs, counting the Roto Hackers League. So, so I went in the semis, I went 9-3. So I'm going to nine championship games.
Yeah.
And the really good part of it is, I had 400 teams that got in. That was half of my $100 teams that I paid for this year. And all four won their semifinal game. So
you're in the money.
So I'm in the money. So I put in $1,300. I paid for $1,300 worth of teams at the start of the year, and through the semifinals, I've won back all of it plus a $500 profit. So right now I'm at $1,800, and I can win up to $1,300 more next week.
That is
this
great.
Week.
Wow.
So like somehow in all the chaos, it actually like ended up like, because I picked up, like this week I played Justin Jackson in a bunch of leagues, just stuff like that. I mean, he went off for 30 points and just stuff like that. So it worked out well. Like I was just ready for this to be a downer of a season, and somehow it came together. Last bit before I shut up about my teams, because nobody really probably cares, but the 3 teams that lost would have beaten any other team. They scored more points than any other team in the league except the team that I was playing. Otherwise I could have, and that's what happened with me and Drew in our league, where Drew Vano, our loyal listener Drew Vano, had by far the best season of anybody, and this week he had the second highest amount of points, but he just happened to be playing me, and so I outscored him. Yeah, and that's what happened to me in my other leagues. Otherwise, I could have gone 12
and
0 semis.
Oh man, 12 and 0. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. But the fantasy gods are fickle gods indeed, are they not?
They are.
It was not my year, says Cademan. Hey, I'm with you there, buddy. It was not my year either. I kind of gave up halfway too. I was just like, I just don't care.
Yeah, it was hard not to. I really felt that extra week. Like one extra week in the season felt like 5. And like now that we got down towards the end of the year, most of the year, we didn't have a lot of COVID problems. We had injury problems. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, basically any running back drafted in the first round. So we had that problem, which was already, running back was already a messy situation coming into the year because so many players were in, RBDs. So then we had that, and then we get to the end of the year, and it's COVID chaos. So I really had to focus, like, okay, we're just a couple of weeks from the finish line. You have to lock in. You can't just quit now. But this season, I am so glad we're to the last week. I'm gonna like just collapse once we get across the finish line.
Well, you're doing well. You're gonna get across the finish line first. And Ryan says my team's been going off even with me putting in randoms to make up my injury and COVID. Randoms have been going off. That's the thing. Like you're saying, Jackson, my man, Sexy Rexy, Burkhead. I mean, all these randos were just like 20 or more points. And the ones that I think people were sort of relying on, like Jonathan Taylor and who else? There was a few other. For me, it was
Cup
Kamara.
didn't Kamara didn't, do that game last night was one of the ugliest games I've ever seen. I heard that the Saints tried to coax Drew Brees out, both Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers out of retirement. And I thought, like, really, both of them? And then I watched Ian Book play, and then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
That was
now.
a good idea.
yeah, worth a shot.
Well, hold that thought. Shout out Braxton Berrios out of nowhere. Now, he wasn't totally out of nowhere. He sort of had he's been sort of ramping up, it seems, the last 2 or 3 weeks. Allied Rival said both of us did not do the greatest in our league this year. So he didn't. Okay, in the Allied Rivals league. Okay, him and AJ. Brady versus Jets or Allen? Oh, we already gotten. Hey, Dick, thanks for joining us. Brady versus Jets or Allen versus Atlanta? Kittle versus Houston. Andrews versus the Rams. Adams versus these
are some outstanding problems to have.
Diggs, and then Mixon versus KC versus Montgomery?
David Montgomery.
Montgomery? David went off last week. My goodness. What would you say?
I'm gonna get 2 of these out of the way, and then I'm gonna need a little more time to think about a couple of the others. I'm gonna say Allen versus Atlanta. I know it's the Jets that Tom Brady's playing, but we're down to Antonio Brown, and the Jets are a doormat, but in certain areas they've not been as big of a doormat as some other teams. The Jets have given up the 11th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, so they're not even a bottom 10 defense. So Josh Allen, and then on the running back situation, I think I'm actually, unless I change my mind, I'm inclined to go with Montgomery. The Giants haven't particularly great. They've given up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. Mixon had a great week. He's had several, great weeks.
Yeah, he's on the tear.
Well, yes and no. He had 28.5 against Baltimore, but he had 3 straight weeks of single digits prior to that. So he always scares me a little bit. And Kansas City's defense has gotten better.
That's true.
So I would be inclined to lean Montgomery just slightly. The receiver one, I'm going to go Adams. I can't ever. There's really no scenario where I could pick, I think, over Devonta Adams. Diggs has gotten better, and he's got a great matchup with the Falcons. But Adams has, a great matchup with the Vikings. Get them both. Surely you've got to be able to get them both in your lineup. Unless you've got just 3 stud running backs like Taylor and a couple others. Surely you can get them both in your lineup.
I would probably put both of them in there if you're worried about like Mixon or David Montgomery being your flex. Wouldn't you put Adams there or Diggs instead of Mixon or Montgomery, especially if it's PPR?
I think so. Yeah, although it's still a little tough to go wide receiver running back for me, but I would probably maybe do that. I would have to think about that one a little bit more. So the toughest one for me now, do you let's before we go into tight end, what do you think about those? So my picks were
Diggs. I mean, you wanted to go Montgomery and Adams and Allen. Right?
Yeah, you agree.
I mostly agree. The only thing I'd bring up is Diggs tends to go off in these games. In these last couple of games, it's just weird. But Diggs somehow has huge games. in the last few games, especially during the fantasy playoffs. So I'd be wary of that. But I think you have to go Adams for just the height of his floor, right? Like he just he gets at least 20 points a game every game. And I think I would check on Aaron Rodgers' health, but I think he's healthy.
Yeah.
There was a little scare there where someone stepped on his foot, and he's been having a little bit of foot issues. But I think even if he's a little bit limpy, I think that may even bode well for he just have to stand back in the pocket and throw more. So
yeah,
I agree with you. So the big one is Kittle versus Andrews.
Yeah, and this one's a tough one because Kittle's got a great matchup. Andrews has a tougher matchup with the Rams. I had to look into this a little bit before I decided which way I was going to go on this. I'm going to go Andrews even in a tougher matchup, mainly due to we don't know exactly what Kittle's quarterback situation is going to be. It looks like Jimmy G is going to be out, and Trey Lance is probably going to be in. It could be a really...
They were saying that Kittle's going to try to tough it out. Last time I saw it, did you check on that?
I'm sorry. I don't know if I said Kill or not, but are you talking about Jimmy G?
I mean, Jimmy G is going to try to tough it out.
Well, but here's the thing, though, about trying to tough out a hand injury is like he could physically do it, but that doesn't mean he's going to be able to throw the ball well.
Oh, no. I think it's worse for him.
So if it was like a rib injury and he's going to tough it out and take the hits and stuff, that's one thing. But when your hand is jacked up and you're trying to throw a ball to receiver, I don't know how that's going to go. So I that does not inspire confidence for me. It may be a really, run heavy. I mean, it's Houston, so they can probably run the ball against them a lot and play defense. Andrews, has been, really, really, he got off to a little bit of a slow start the first 4 games or so, 3 out of those first 4 games, but since on, especially over the last 7 weeks or so, I mean, the guy's just getting double-digit targets every game. 3 straight games of plus yards, 3 straight games of at least 1 touchdown. I think it's going to be more subdued against the Rams, but Kittle has just not shown up for some games. So I don't between the quarterback position and the fact that the 49ers have been so inconsistent in the way they have used certain players like George Kittle or Brandon Ayuk. If you're not a 49ers running back or Deebo Samuel, you can't, there's no floor there whatsoever. The floor can be just almost nothing. The Ravens have to throw the ball. They don't have a running game. They have to throw the ball. It's going to be to Mark Andrews and Hollywood and some Bateman. But I think Andrews' targets are going to be there. I would go Andrews.
I agree. Now, we got right into that. Didn't mean to get right into talking about that. One thing off the bat you mentioned, and I think we should mention, is that John Madden died. One of the most famous voices in the NFL. And I think that that's a sad thing. I think the happy thing about it is that he is one of the most famous voices, and he will continue to live on. It's kind of amazing that somebody like that, I think it's not surprising though, with his charisma and his just unique take on things and voice, figuratively and literally. I think it's great that he will live on through video games and through commentary. Yeah. People refer to him, and he will not die,
right,
other than leave this mortal earth.
Yeah, you almost kind of forget. You have the most successful NFL video game franchise. I mean, really about all there is now, I guess, that all there's been for years, maybe decades, I guess, because it's been a while since the 2K games were out and before EA got the exclusive rights to Madden. But, I mean, Madden is synonymous with video game football. So, so like you said, I mean, it that name will go on for sure.
And he lived a good life. So from what it seems like, he's leaving with very few, if any, tarnishes. And so that's that. I did want to mention that. It's huge in the football world. It doesn't really affect fantasy, but I think it is worth mentioning. Yeah. In other news, we've got a plethora of COVID cases. One of probably the most significant ones to come out today, I think it was today, was that Carson Wentz is probably not going to play.
Right. Yeah.
So that affects your team, obviously. And I wanted to get your take on what is that going to look like for fantasy for Jonathan Taylor, for what's his name, the receiver there,
Pittman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am less concerned about Jonathan Taylor. If the Colts get their line back, which I mean, they were missing fourth of their line against the Cardinals. And Taylor still managed to run for like 100 yards, mostly due to like one big about 50-yard carry. But, I think being back home and if they have their line back mostly, they should be in pretty good shape. I mean, they've had games where they've, just barely thrown the ball and just Jonathan Taylor, ran it down the other team's throat. So I feel pretty good about him. It does scare me that I'm just sitting there waiting like to see Jonathan Taylor pop up on the COVID list. And then that's just going to break my heart because I have him in so many leagues.
Really?
Yeah. I think I've got him. I think out of my teams, and that's why. Well, that's not why I did.
Big part of your wins.
Yeah. He's not the reason I won last week because he had a pretty down game for him, but he was what got those teams. So I think out of my 11, 12 teams that got in, I've got him on half of them. So if at least 6 of them. So if he's out in a good matchup in the championship, that's going to be a heartbreaker. So I'm just hoping to not see him pop up on the COVID list. I think he'll be okay. It may not be quite, as good of a game if with assuming Wentz is out.
Who are they playing again?
They're playing the Raiders, and the Raiders have not had the best run defense. So, again, the Colts are at home. They have a good defense. The Raiders have given up the third most points to running backs. So I think he can still have a good game if the line's back. I do worry about Michael Pittman. If Carson Wentz isn't in there, I don't want to start Michael Pittman because I don't know how much they're going to throw it, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. And I don't know how successfully they're going to do it. So, so that does change my outlook on, possibly viewing Pittman as like a number 2 wide receiver or a flex to the point where like, you're going to have to be desperate to use him if Wentz isn't in there.
Well, so who is the backup there? Is it Enzinger or whatever his name is?
Ellinger. Yeah.
Ellinger.
Sam Ellinger. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. So, I mean, on one hand, you could say they're going to really lean heavily on Jonathan Taylor. On the other hand, you could say, well, the other team knows that and will stack the box. But I think they have enough good receivers that they can't stack the box too much. Depending on how good is this quarterback? Can he just, can he get it to one of these guys?
I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. You know, he's a rookie quarterback, and he was injured for a chunk of the season. You know, he hurt his knee in a preseason game. You know, it's pretty raw. It could be. I think it'll be a better situation than Ian Book. But you know, we've seen with Ian Book like what the floor can look like, and so. I think you'd have to be, I would be super nervous if I was in a situation where I had to play Michael Pittman, because that could, you know, that could be, you know, like a 1.5 point performance or something, you know?
And so I'm trying to think of the playoff implications here. Now, both of them could either lose or get in the playoffs, right? No, or have the Colts clinched.
They haven't clinched yet, I don't think, but they are, you know, they are in a pretty good spot at the moment. They were looking really good with having, you know, the Raiders at home and then the Jags. Mm-hmm. You know, right now, so right now the Colts, you know, you've got 4 division leaders in the Chiefs, Titans, Bengals, Bills, and then the Colts and the Patriots are both at 9 and 6, and then everybody else is either 8 and or worse. You know, but then like if the Colts lost that game to the Raiders, then they would both be 9 and 7, and the Raiders would have breaker. The Colts lost to the Ravens, which is another team that's 8 and 7, so they would have the tiebreaker. So it could get a little bit dicey. Like if the Colts win this week, this is a big game. This is a big game. They could lose this one and still come back next week and win, but they need to win one of these last 2 at least, and preferably win this one.
Right, because this one could be the tiebreaker that they need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching. I think that's all the news. Unless you have any. Cademan says, I'm scared for the Packers since Dalvin Cook is back. He's off the COVID list and ready to run down their throats. But typically, I mean, Minnesota's not that scary to me. Yeah, I mean, they put up a good fight last time we played them. I think I'm going to start Treadwell again, says Ryan. If Evans can't play, Treadwell had a pretty good game last week, right?
This was, sorry. Treadwell has been solid. I actually picked him up in the Roto Hackers League, but you know, the problem is he's just, I mean, he's not getting touchdowns. He's almost sort of like a Jacoby Myers type, where he's giving you like 8 point something points every week in half point PPR.
Like he's getting a lot of his production off of just catches.
Yeah, he's getting you, you know, 50 or 60 something yards off of several catches, you know, targets, but he's not scoring. He hasn't scored. And this week he gets New England, which has given up the 3rd fewest points to wide receivers. He's not someone I would go to this week.
I might even put Darius over him.
Yeah. Well, and to Ryan's point, it looks like Evans is not going to play. I mean, Evans has a little whammy of having his injury, whatever it was, hamstring or whatever, and he's on the COVID list. So he would have to beat both of those things. And I'd say the odds are he's probably not going to overcome either.
Well, it's getting kind of late. I would like to wrap things up a little bit. But before we do, I'd like to talk about the waiver wire. This is the last-ditch effort. I have looked at the waiver wire. I had a friend ask me some advice, and I said, I looked at the waiver wire and said, it's crapshoot. I can't tell you. I can't really give you any advice. Do you have any good advice? Any good picks off of the waiver wire, Jared?
So I think there's actually a fair amount of interesting players out there on the waiver wire. So so there's a fair amount, and obviously none of them, very little is a sure thing. But there's a fair amount there in terms of running back, because I'm going to butcher his name, but James Robinson's backup, Ogunabowale, yeah. He does not have, again, he gets New England, so that's not the friendliest matchup. But he's probably going to get the carries. So there, and then you basically have mostly some other running backs that are in that are going to be splitting carries with somebody. But if Darrell Williams is out there, CEH is probably game this week. So Darrell Williams, not just Williams, but also Derek Gore. They're probably going to be splitting touches. That could be, and these guys, probably one of them is going to blow up for 20 plus points, but one might get you a dozen points or something. And so you got them. You've got the Eagles running backs. You've got potentially maybe three to choose from. Miles Sanders is out. Not sure about Howard. So then you got so maybe there's Howard.
They just picked up Kerryon Johnson, I think I saw. So I don't know.
I think that's probably just for depth. I think it's going to be worst case. It's going to be like Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell if Howard is out too. And then you have Kerryon for depth, but you have those guys. You have those guys out there. On the wide receiver front, the Packers are going to be playing the Vikings, who have one of the single worst pass defenses. I think it may still be the worst. I think it may still be giving up the most. Yeah, they've given up the fantasy points to wide receivers. So, it's looking like Valdez-Scantling may be out again with COVID. So maybe it's a good time to pair up Alan Lazard, who two of the last 3 weeks has been in double figures. Again, Minnesota, the most points allowed to wide receivers. It's a nice matchup if Valdez-Scantling's out. If he's not, then you're taking a little bit more of a gamble with him because he can be boom or bust.
Yeah.
But if he's Lazard, usually tends to be pretty solid. Another guy I would consider, I gotta look to see what percentage owned he is. Okay, he's 68% rostered. So he's rostered more than I thought he was because he's available in more than half of my leagues, which are paid leagues. Is Tyler Boyd, who the last 2 weeks he's basically been around 17 points. He had 18 2 weeks ago, 16 last week, where he's getting you around 90 yards and a touchdown. They're playing the Chiefs this week. They may have to, throw the ball a lot. So I think Tyler Boyd is, an interesting guy to, if you're desperate at receiver, you take a look at.
Would you take Boyd or Berrios?
I would. That's a little bit tougher. I might be inclined to take Boyd, even though the problem is there's going to be more. There's probably going to be more of a focus on Berrios. Maybe you're better off going with Berrios because the volume is going to be more likely to be there for him, whereas Boyd is the third or fourth option there.
And would you put Lazard over both of them? Lazard.
If Valdez-Scantling is out, yeah, I would take that shot.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to suss out like where ranking wise. What McKenzie, Isaiah McKenzie? A lot of people have him high. Why?
So he blew up last week. Yeah, blew up against the Patriots. Every other game. Okay, I'm sorry. With the exception of one other game this year, he has been at two points or less. So Cole Beasley was out. I think Gabriel Davis maybe was too, and McKenzie, blew up for 11 receptions on 12 targets, 125 yards and a touchdown. I know it's a great matchup, but I would not trust him to repeat that. I mean, if you're in a deep league or you're desperate,
you have no confirmation,
then sure.
right? All you have is a spike.
Right.
You have no confirmation. Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about Burkhead? Is he? Speaking of spikes, are we going to see him get the majority of the touches again, or are we going to see Johnson come back in? What's going on?
Yeah, there again, that's if I am okay if David Johnson doesn't come back. San Francisco is sort of a middle of the road defense. They're above average when it comes to stopping, so it's not a super great matchup. If there again, if you're desperate, I could see turning to Burkhead if David Johnson is out. But Burkhead was getting some serious carries prior to that game against the Chargers. It's just that the Chargers have a horrendous run defense. The week before that, he got 16 carries against the Jaguars. He had 5.2 points. Week 11, he got 18 carries against the Titans. He had 4 points. So, it's not like, he's a player who just stepped into a golden situation and he's about ready to explode. He had a great matchup last week, and that's great. That's great if he delivered for you in the semis. I would not expect, or it's like an Isaiah McKenzie situation. I would not bank on a repeat. The odds are against a repeat.
Yeah, especially against San Francisco. I mean, it looks like they're shortening up their defense a little bit. Everybody's getting pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are some good picks, man. I didn't realize there were so many options out there. Pringle? What about Pringle? I've been seeing him rise in looks, but I guess there's so many mouths to feed there with the Chiefs that it's kind of a whack-a-mole type thing.
Yeah. Again, kind of. I mean, he's been more consistent than some of the guys we've talked about. I would not want to have to trust that. I mean, he's had a few games this year where he's delivered something, but I wouldn't want to have to bank on it. Another guy at another position that you might want to take a chance on if he's out there. He's about 75% raw, mostly taken. But if you're looking for a tight end plug-in, Hunter Henry, they get Jacksonville again. Jacksonville's sort of more in the middle of the road against tight ends. They're above average, but the last couple of weeks he's been kind of boom or bust, but at least getting targets. So if you're desperate for a tight end, I think you could go Hunter Henry.
I like that. Okay. How about last, I guess, but not least, but maybe least, would you pick up anybody as far as a QB? If you're desperate for QB, is there anybody out there that you're looking at? Would you roll the dice on Ehlinger?
No, no, absolutely not. No, I wouldn't roll the dice on Ehlinger.
I mean, it's like Teddy Bridgewater. There's not much out there at this point, right?
There is very little out there. I will say, I did try to pick up an extra QB where I could, even if I had a great QB, because just like we saw with Carson Wentz, your quarterback might get COVID and then he's out for the week. So what are you going to do? So I'll tell you who I rolled with is he's only about 41% rostered. Was Tua.
Yeah,
because
that's who I have going
gets,
in the finals.
Yeah, he gets the Titans. Titans are a bottom 10 defense against quarterbacks. It's on the road, so I don't love that as much. But you gotta, at this point, you can't be too choosy. So I would, if Tua's out there, you might. I think it behooves you to roster another quarterback because you don't know, what can happen.
I say snap him up.
Yeah. And if we dig deeper and you're a little bit more desperate, right. You could take a shot on somebody like, if Jimmy G ends up being out and you want to shot on a Trey Lance or something like that. But I mean, it's
I'd
really
rather
sketchy
Wilson.
at this point.
I'd rather Wilson.
That's fair. That's probably fair. Tampa hasn't been great, and Wilson has since he's back, he's actually sprinkled in a couple of 20+ point games.
Yeah, he doesn't have the running floor though that Lance has.
Yeah, but let's see what he's done in terms of running, because he's a fairly athletic guy, and his okay. So I guess, yeah, normally he hasn't been running that much, but part of the way he put up his points this past week was he ran 4 times for 91 and a touchdown. So I guess he broke off a 52-yard run.
Okay.
So he is athletic.
Yeah.
And that would, okay. He would terrify me if I had to put him in, because I mean, Zach against Tampa, and the fact that, like, who is he even throwing to besides Berrios? Is it? I mean, I thought basically everybody was out. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, I think, might play. But
yeah, that's dumpster diving. That's dumpster diving.
Yeah, that you'd have to be really. So I just hope against hope that your quarterback, that you already have a quarterback, and he doesn't get COVID, because it is them picking, and which is weird. I feel like quarterback play just gets worse every year, because you think about, I can remember past years just being able to pick up some guys and, like, oh, this is a solid matchup. This guy is capable, and he can deliver something solid. And this year, man, it's just like there's just nothing.
Part of the reason is the bar has been raised, right? I mean, like nowadays, if you're not getting 20 points, I mean, you're, just trash. It used to be, I remember a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I would pick up somebody filling in, a backup QB. He'd get me 15 points. I'd feel good about that. This year, even 20 points feels a little like, oh, come on. Everybody, the cream of the crop are just really bringing the bar up. And, getting in the 30s is not unusual.
Yeah. I remember, I have a specific vivid memory of starting Matthew Stafford years ago in some fantasy semifinal or something like that. And he gave me like 17.5 points. And I'm like, okay, that's solid. And now I would be like, what, you bum. Just retire already. You absolute failure.
It's true. It's a different game. It really is.
It is.
All right. Well,
so we got some more.
Oh,
Yeah, we got some more questions.
Yeah, so let's see. We got Devonta Freeman or Melvin Gordon. Now, Freeman has been putting up some numbers. He's been doing some work. He at first glance, I'd think, of course, Melvin Gordon, but Williams is really coming on there with Denver. What do you think? I mean, this is kind of a toss-up, isn't it?
I'm going to go Gordon just for the matchup against the Chargers.
Yeah,
who just got destroyed by Rex Burkhead. I know even in a split, Williams and Gordon just tore them up last time. So and Devonta Freeman gets the Rams. Not my favorite run, so I would go Gordon.
I agree. All right, Kirk Cousins or Lamar Jackson? I don't think we're still sure. Are we even sure that if Lamar Jackson is healthy?
No,
I think he's still limping.
We don't know if he's gonna. We don't know if he's gonna play. We don't know if he's even gonna play.
Even if he plays, I think I'd still go Kirk Cousins because you take away the run aspect of Lamar Jackson. I'd rather have Kirk Cousins. I mean, you basically have Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson without the run aspect. What do you think? Yeah.
Probably so. I mean, Cousins played well against the Packers last game, 25.24 points. It's in Lambeau, so it's not as attractive of a matchup, but the way Lamar has been this season, plus the injury, it's Cousins.
I agree. Should I flex Rashad Penny or Hunter Renfrow? Now, are you an unbiased source here? Because this is Anthony who's playing against you.
Let's see which one we're talking about. Oh, okay. So he doesn't have. He's talking about another league.
Okay.
So I don't have to
recuse yourself.
This is an easy Rashad Penny for me.
Really?
Yeah, I know Hunter Renfrow has anywhere from solid to spectacular at different times. The Colts defense is not. Sorry, my nose is itching.
Sorry.
Colts defense is not the easiest. It's above average against the pass.
Yeah.
And the Lions terrible against the run. Penny is on a tear. Hopefully he can make it through one more game healthy, which is always the question with Seahawks running backs. But this is an easy Rashad Penny for me.
I think I have to agree. I've always been a Rashad Penny truther. Oh, is Jared a Funko Pops guy? Yes.
Yeah.
Jared. Let me ask you a question. Do you know who My Hero Academia is by any chance?
I only have any idea about the reference for it because I have seen those pops advertised, but I don't know anything about it. It's
kind of the hot anime right now. I really like it. It's different than all the others, and my whole family, we watch it together, and so I was really looking for some Funko Pops or something, toys from that My Hero Academia. Couldn't find any. No, I'm not a Funko Pop guy at all, but my kids, like toys, and so I get things, for them. But I like anything that calls back to fun, shows and pop culture.
Yeah, AJ is. Yeah.
Okay, I do like figurines, though. I have quite a collection of figurines. I think that does it for next week. I would like us to think about who is the fantasy hero and who is the fantasy dud of the season for you in particular. I have a few thoughts of who, hopefully maybe we can talk about it before so we don't all have the same ones. I don't know. Maybe it'd be good if we did have the same ones.
Yeah. Well, and maybe there's probably some guys that we need to acknowledge as like, okay, these guys are the like Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
You
Those
know,
are kind of givens, right? Well,
yeah.
let's see. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't show up this week, I don't know if I would include him in the.
Well, but I would still say, because I mean, it's not his fault. Like week, you know, again, 4/5 of their starting offensive line was gone, and he still had 100 yards. He just didn't have, you know, a touchdown. But it's not really, you know, it isn't his fault. I don't know. We'll see what happens with this, but I think he'll still deliver. You know, I think he's probably going to get you 18 points, or more, but we'll see. But
okay, let's talk about it before next week. Let's have a little. Let's have a little, you know, crowning of the hero.
Yeah.
Or what
so you think?
I think he would be somebody that we would have to just crown, but maybe if we have like a top 3.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Saturday, New Year's Day, you think we want to try to stream? I would say we'll probably just be the two of us again.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. Maybe. I'd like to get AJ back on. We'll see if we can make that work. He's got things going on. Yeah, you know, New Year's tends to be, you think of it as like, you know, that's the what do you call it? The
start of the new year?
No, it's on par with Christmas, you know, but it's actually the New Year's Eve that is all the celebration. New Year's, nobody like. On Christmas Day, people do things, right? They eat together, they spend time together. Who gets together on New Year's Day? I think most people just like chill on New Year's Day.
Yeah. New Year's is it's definitely a situation where it's all about the anticipation of it and not the actual delivery. It's like the anticipation of, oh, this is a new year. This is going to be a fresh start. This is going to be a great year. And then COVID's just like, no, it's not. So no, New Year's Eve is great because it's kind of like, I say this every year. I say this is, I know we're gonna go over, you know, we both need to go in a minute, but I say this every year, and this is like wise life advice and analysis right here. The week between Christmas and New Year's Day is like it's like we fell into some crack in the space-time continuum where time and space mean nothing. Like, what day is this? What are we doing? Where am I supposed to be? What is the meaning of my existence? All of these questions. And really, I'm actually kind of glad that we have fantasy here. And I'm actually kind of glad that it got pushed back. I guess this would be the one saving grace, is that like there's some reference point for me, or there's something for me to cling on to. It's like, oh, fantasy football. Yeah, I have to do this. Because
the last anchor of reality for you this week.
Yeah, because it's sort of just like, I don't know, this week just feels to me like, you know, those last couple days of school of the semester where you're just like, everything's done, and once there's not enough time to start anything new, but you've got to be there. And so you're just kind of reflecting back on what's happened. And you're like, oh yeah, this was okay. Yeah, this next thing we're doing is going to be great. Oh, we're going to all move on to this, and it's going to be even better. And so that is the time. Like right now is the time to be excited and hope and think about all the possibilities for next year before the reality of next year comes along and just like an anaconda just wraps itself around you and squeezes all of that hope right out of you.
Always the cynic. My goodness. Oh man, I love it. Well, we'll do some of that hopefully we'll face some of that squeezing next week on Saturday. And
this week on Saturday.
Oh, what? Yeah, this
week.
Week
yeah, we're already on Wednesday, so we're
next year.
4 days.
Saturday.
Next year, yes. We'll. Oh yeah. We gotta do that bit. Gotta do that bit of see you next year.
I love how much you hate stuff like that. All right, well, until next year.
Until for the last time of 2021. Good luck on the waiver wire.